week we have our student living, which is residence life and living on campus and campus housing all combined into one, here to talk a little bit about what life is going to be like once you are on campus. For those of you who haven't joined us for one of these before, these are live and you are welcome to send in any questions you want. We recommend you send them into the chat. We'll read them out loud. These sessions are recorded because not every family can hop on at lunchtime. We have families joining us from Hawaii and the East Coast, and that makes for a little bit more difficult time-wise. So we will read all the questions aloud. That way we can make sure that all of your questions get answered. If it is something very specific, maybe about your student or your student's specific situation, you are welcome to send me. I will be hosting today. I'm Derek. I'm one of the admissions counselors here. And I will be, if you do have something specific, you can send it directly to me and I will either make it a little bit more general, or I will get you the contact for the person who's going to be able to answer that specific situation for you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay Blem and Andrea Dennis to tell us a little bit about student life and living on campus.
Hi, everyone. We're so excited to be with you today. My name is Lindsay Blem. I'm the Dean of Student Development and Campus Living here at Pacific, and I use she, her pronouns. And I'm going to pass it to Andrea to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Associate Director of Campus Living here on campus.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to go over some basics about campus living here. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to live on campus, which options are available for your students, and even get into some of the fun details about like what does moving in look like and what kind of support do students have while living here on campus. Okay, so we're going to start with the basic question that we get a lot, which is just where will students live when they come to Pacific University? So we're going to highlight the three main halls that new students live in, and we'll talk about a few more details right after that. So the first hall I'm going to feature here is McCormick Hall. It's actually our most historic hall, and it's one of my favorites because every room's a little bit different. It was built in the 1920s, but has been renovated multiple times, and it's super comfy and has a lot of good character in it. On the fourth floor, the rooms actually tend to have vaulted ceilings, so they feel fancy and maybe like you're at Hogwarts. And it is home to a lot of our first year and second year students. It has some really big lounges too, as you can see on the picture on the left there. We have a community kitchen inside, and most of the rooms tend to be double rooms. When we say double, it means that two people will live there, and they tend to use community bathrooms and showers there as well. Next up, we're going to travel on to Cascade Hall. So we went on the oldest side, and now we're talking about the newest side. Cascade is a mix of first year, second year, and even sometimes third and fourth year students. It's 4 floors and has, again, mostly double rooms, so 2 people to a room. The rooms tend to be a little bit smaller in Cascade as it's a newer hall, but has good lounges for folks to connect and study. It has community kitchens as well. And next year, it will also feature our location for our Rainbow Wing, which is for LGBTQIA+ students and allies. Next, we're going to travel to Walter Hall. And Walter is the residence hall that most new students tend to live in. It is mostly first year students. And the cool thing about Walter is that it's super easy to get to know neighbors there because the doors can easily be opened. Sometimes in the other halls, there are fire safety measures with how the building was built, where the doors have to stay closed more often. But in this hall, the way it was built is that folks can really meet each other and hang out and kind of just have those casual connections, which is really fun. It is 3 floors of rooms and mostly double rooms again. The rooms are really large in Walter. So that's one of the things I love to highlight. When I was a student at Pacific, actually, students would play pranks on each other by hiding in the closets and even in some of the storage above the doors because it's so big. People can put big suitcases there, and it's really flexible now too. Walter also has a community kitchen. It also features our men's and women's wings. And we have a picture right there of the lounge. The students who were in Walter this year just got a brand new TV for their lounge, and they're super pumped about that. So they're going to have a game night there coming up soon. Okay. Something about all of the residence halls on campus is that they are all super close to class. So there's not really a strategy on like this one's closer to classes, this one's further away from classes. They're all very close to each other. They all include free laundry as well. So you don't have to bring quarters or anything like that. It's just part of living on campus that you have access to the laundry facilities. And they all tend to have like printers and copiers inside them and vacuums. So a student doesn't have to bring their own vacuum. They can borrow one from the front desk. I talked a lot about the double rooms being a feature in each of those buildings. And so each of those buildings, no matter if you're in a double in Walter or Cascade or McCormick, all of those rooms are the same price on campus. And then if your student is a transfer student or you are a transfer student, there's a chance you might be assigned to other halls that we have on campus that our upperclassmen tend to be assigned to, just depending on space. So right now we just finished our lottery for our current students. All of those spaces are selected right now, but there's always a chance that things might open up for our transfer students as we go through the summer. Okay, pass it to Andrea.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts and the details that you are probably wondering about. So the first is that we do have an on-campus living requirement for students who are born after the first day of classes. Which is, so 8/28/2003 is our deadline because classes start this year on the 28th of August. So that means that if you're born after that date, you are required to live and board in campus housing. And Lindsay, can we go to the next one? Cool. So if you're thinking, wait a minute, I want to waive that requirement, there is a process for doing that. Auto waivers are available for students who are married, who are caring for a child, or living with an immediate family member within 20 miles. If you are already thinking, I'm really interested in that, we understand, go ahead and submit a ticket and we will send you that form. You can also send us an email at reslife@pacificu.edu and we will be sure to get you the information that you need to submit a waiver. But I think it's really important for you to know that we want you to live on campus if you're able. So we can move in, Lindsay, to the how to apply. That's totally fine. Because for most of you, now it's time to talk about like what it means to apply to live in housing with us. So there are three main steps that you're going to take. So the first step is to set up your Boxer ID and password. And then in early May, you are going to start completing your online housing application. So we'll make sure to send you all of those details via your Boxer email. So now is a great time to, like I said, start that process by setting up your Boxer ID and password and get logged into your email. And then the third step of the process is going to involve finding a roommate. So you will do that all in our software system. So we are using a program called eResLife, and you will start experiencing that through your application. And then after you complete your application, you'll get to work on finding a roommate. If you're on an athletic team, you may hear from your coach about them wanting to work through that process with you, and we'll make sure that they send you more details. Otherwise, you can totally plan on just going through our roommate matching process. Okay, so let's talk then about if you're thinking that you might need a housing accommodation. These are for students who need disability-related housing accommodations. You'll be working with our Office of Accessibility and Accommodations. If you go to our website and search for OAA, then you'll just click Getting Started and it'll lead you through the whole process, including any documentation that you need to submit. And then our staff will reach out to you and work on that process with you. Okay. All right. How does housing work? I think everybody has this question. So once you submit your application, then there's some waiting time where you are able to complete the roommate matching process. Other students are completing their applications and selecting roommates and all of that. So then once we get through that process and everybody's had a chance to participate, who submitted their application at that point, then we'll start making assignments in mid-June. So the big thing for you to know is that it is good for you to complete your application early and then start working through that roommate matching process, because we'll do the first round of assignments in mid-June. So then after you get your assignment, you will have the opportunity to select your meal plan. So part of what's important about that is the idea that they're a little bit of two separate processes, because your assignment is related to your meal plan. So connected, but not completely together. So just to review, the biggest thing for you to know is that we'll make the first assignments in mid-June. So if you can complete your housing application and your roommate preferences before then, that will be the first opportunity to be assigned to a space. Okay, let's talk meal plans. This is another part that everyone has lots of questions about, and that makes lots of sense. So as you'll see, we have 4 different meal plans for students. The thing that you may want to know is that meal plan 4 is actually our most popular meal plan because it includes all of the meals offered in the cafe every week. So that can be really helpful as you're adjusting to college life and being at Pacific and figuring out your schedule. It's nice to have the flexibility and to not have to plan out as much exactly which meals you're going to be using. You just know that you have access to any of the meals. As you'll notice, that also includes the lowest amount of declining balance. So declining balance is what we use for you to be able to spend money at Starbucks and at the market. So the market is kind of like our convenience store. It has lots of things for you that are like snacks. There's some sushi there. There are other meal options, but what's most important for you to know is that it's like an add-on. So it's a good go-to if you are really busy, but something that's really helpful is knowing that the cafe has a lot of hours for those meals. So you can choose to really bank on using the cafe for most of those. Okay, so as you'll see, then plans 1, 2, and 3 have different amounts of declining balance. The number of guest meals are all the same. So a guest meal is, for example, like if you want to bring your parent to eat with you, or if you have a friend visiting from off campus, you can use it for them. Those are meant to be used for non-students. So that's just good for you to know, or students that don't have a meal plan. If you want to eat with somebody, you can totally invite them to join you, and then you can just take care of it for them with your meal plan, which is awesome. Okay, so as you'll see, then there are different amounts of block meals, and a block meal just means that we will count per meal every time that you swipe in to use the cafe. So these are all just good for you to know. Again, meal plan 4 is the one that most students choose because it provides you the most flexibility with your schedule.
All right, we're going to swap gears a little bit to talk about what moving in looks like. So first up, when it happens, if your student is a fall athlete or participating in one of our pre-orientation voyages, they will have an earlier move-in date than will be advertised just for orientation. Those are specially arranged with our campus living office and the activity. So everyone will still come at the same time, but it'll be earlier than August 26th. The big move-in day is August 26th. So all of our students coming for orientation will move in on that day, and they'll check into orientation first and then start moving into campus housing. We have lots of volunteers around that day to help move in, and I'll share some pictures about what that looks like in just a second. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about what you should bring to campus and maybe what you should consider leaving behind. And so we tend to get questions about this as well as folks are starting to envision themselves living on campus. Definitely, there's a more comprehensive list online, but some things to consider are basics of what you need in your room. So sheets, blankets, towels, a garbage bin, obviously a computer or other school supplies are really helpful. basic cleaning supplies, clothes and coats for different kinds of weather, general laundry supplies. So while laundry is free, students definitely need to bring laundry detergent and a laundry basket or something to carry the laundry, a bag even, down to the laundry room, and any medications as well. We tend to find that it's really helpful for students to move in and see what rooms look like before getting all the extra fun stuff like organizers. Sometimes even room decorations can have a different feel. Like once you're in the room, you can see like, oh, this would be really good here, or I really want something like this. And so we tend to advise to not bring every single thing you might need, but to wait a couple of days and see, okay, well, if I'm going to add into here, what will this look like and how will it fit in my room? Some things to leave behind include unapproved animals, candles. Generally, students can technically have a candle, but it can't be burned. And so usually that's not helpful or something that they want to have in the room if they can't actually use it. Space heaters and air conditioning units are electrical systems tend to trip the breakers if anyone has those things, so they're not permitted on campus. Microwaves and toasters as well. The only exception being that if your student is like a transfer student and is assigned to an apartment, or if they're coming back in a future year and living in an apartment, toasters are okay in kitchens, and they all come with microwaves. And flushable wipes for the toilets as well, because they shouldn't be flushed and they mess with plumbing. So just a little preview of what this looks like. Full list is online, and there's like a cool video too that some of our students made about what it's like to move on and some tips and tricks about what to bring. Okay, just wanted to throw a little photo collage here of some of the pictures from our move-ins of years past. Like I said, on the 26th, especially our new student orientation kickoff day, we have lots of hands around to help unload cars and get everyone situated so that we can kick off our orientation activities. We've traditionally had members of our football team even as kind of their, like strength training for the day, come help people move in. And it's so heartwarming to see everyone kind of pitch in and give everyone a really good boxer welcome that day.
Okay, awesome. So we know that at this point in your journey, you have lots of questions about what it's going to look like to live on. You probably have a lot of specific questions. We'll get to those in just a minute, but also we just really want you to know that we're always here to help. So we're going to talk a little bit about who is here to help. So something for you to start getting acclimated to are some of the terms that we use. So there are professional staff who live on campus, and their whole job is to support the students that live on campus. So those are your area coordinators, and you'll receive emails from them, and you'll get lots of information about how they can help you. Resident assistants are student live-in staff. So those are fellow students who are there to help you, serve as a resource, and get you connected to the other resources that you'll need. They also really help facilitate developing community on your floor and in your building. So you'll see them a lot doing events and checking in with you throughout the semesters. So something else for you to know is that campus public safety is always available. So you can call them anytime that you need help, and they are there for you 24/7. And we will go over more of those resources once you're here at orientation. But this is just kind of a good little tidbit of information to start us off. So then let's go ahead and talk about connections that you're going to make on campus. So once you arrive, we are really going to focus on getting you connected to the Pacific community so that you really feel like a boxer from day one. So we are going to start that with fall hangouts. That's your first night of campus. So in the morning, you'll work on moving in, and then that night will be your first chance to really connect with other people that are living in the building, get to know them, and start building those friendships right away. We will have roommate success plans that your RA will work with you on. So that's for anybody who is living with someone else. So that is most of our students go through this process where you get to kind of define like how you have expectations for your room, what those expectations look like, and you'll get to partner together to figure out how you're going to live best together. We'll have lots of hall events and activities even after that first night, because we really want you to connect and feel like you're part of the community as soon as possible. Students who connect well during that first 6 weeks of school tend to do the best throughout their time at Pacific because they know the support and resources they have throughout their time. And then during all of those events and activities, we'll also provide you lots of different ways that you can get involved with clubs and different student activities, and you'll just get to learn lots about that during orientation, but we'll have more opportunities throughout the year for you to get involved as well. Okay, so that is the end of our presentation. Mostly we want you to know that you've got this, you're doing a great job already. We're going to be here to help. So our email is listed right there. We want you to feel free to reach out to us, and we will get back to you to answer questions that aren't answered here today. But with that, I think I'll hand it over to Derek to start asking the questions that we have.
And Andrew just covered a lot and had some really great information for you, but there's probably a few other questions you might have. I've had a few come in, but please feel free to put them into the chat. You can put them to the group as a whole or directly to me, and I will make sure they get read aloud. So starting down the list, one of the first questions was, you mentioned no microwaves in the rooms. Are there microwaves in the kitchens in the residence halls?
Yes, every community kitchen in the residence halls has a microwave.
Awesome. And then another question that came in is, if they already know who they want to room with, do they still have to go through the housing process, or what is that going to look like for them?
So they'll still go through the housing process, but you and your roommate can select to live with each other during that roommate matching process, because you will know who they are already. So you can just select each other, put that information in the application, and then we'll be good to go.
And then one of the questions was, do any of the buildings have AC and or central heat?
So of the buildings that Lindsay talked about, Cascade Hall has AC, but all of the buildings have heat. So we want to make sure that nobody freezes in the winter. And I will say that while AC is really helpful at the very beginning of the year, our students in Walter and Mac tend to do fine without the AC, and it's actually a really short amount of your experience where you're here in the heat. It does cool off pretty quickly in the fall usually.
Buildings. So are students able to get into their residence hall 24 hours a day? Are there certain hours they can't? Can they get into other residence halls? And is their own room on its own key?
Yes. Okay. Those are lots of good questions. So let me know if I don't answer one of them. Okay, so every student receives their Boxer ID card when they begin at Pacific. So you will actually get information about submitting your photo for that in the coming months, so that you can have your ID card when you get here. So when you arrive during move-in day, we'll have people at the doors. So the doors will be unlocked, but that's the only time that that really happens. So the rest of the year, what you'll experience is that the residence halls are locked and you'll need to swipe your ID to get inside. So residential students have access to their building and the other buildings on campus. But then your room key is a physical key. For Cascade, it's a fob. Which looks a little bit different, but the idea is that you only have key access to your room, whereas your Boxer card will allow you to swipe into the other halls. Okay, great.
What if I lose my key, and do I get charged if I get locked out?
Okay, if you lose your key, let us know as soon as it happens. I think that students get really afraid to tell us that they lost a key, but we want you to have access to your room at all times. So we want you to let us know that you've lost your key, because we'll get you a spare key and start working through that process based on like where you lost it and what the circumstances were, that kind of thing. Okay. Also, sometimes students leave their keys at home over break, like when they're coming back. Just let us know and we will work with you on a solution for that. Sorry, Derek, I missed the other question. Okay.
Charged.
I mean, here's the thing. if you're locked out every single day and it's like a real habit, then yeah, we're going to have a conversation about fixing the habit so that you don't get locked out all the time. But in general, the idea is that we want you to have access to your room. So we are going to let you into your room and then talk about what a plan is to kind of fix the issue going forward.
Perfect. So there's a couple questions on refrigerators. So can you bring a fridge to campus and have it in your room? Is there any restrictions on size or anything like that?
Yes, you can bring a mini fridge, and yes, there are some restrictions on size. Lindsay, do you know off the top of your head what the size is?
I am forgetting right now. It's like a certain number of cubic feet. It might be like 3.7 or something like that. I can look it up. It's essentially what most stores sell. So when it starts getting the size of like a 9-year-old, that's too big. But if it's more like a 3 or 4-year-old, that's the right size.
Perfect. Okay, so there was also quite a few questions after talking about the AC. Just can the windows be opened? And if I'm in a residence hall that doesn't have AC, can I bring a fan? And I will point in here, I lived in Walter Hall over one summer when it was over 100 degrees for a week straight, and I was just fine with the fan in my window. So even though they don't have AC, like Andrew was saying, you're still going to be plenty cool. It's a very large brick building, so it takes quite a bit to heat it up and cool it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Fans are a great idea, even just to have some airflow. All the windows can open. And so that's pretty common. I also lived on 3rd floor of Walter. And I actually never remember it getting too hot. If anything, we had some snowy days where my roommate liked to have the window open and I didn't. And that was our point of contention, but it all worked out well.
With my roommate.
Yes, that is a great question, right? Okay, so here's the thing. Part of our role as campus living is to help you have a great experience on campus. And we want you to have a great relationship with your roommate, but it doesn't always go quite as planned, right? So that's where your RA and your area coordinator are there to help you. So of course, if it's something that we can work through, we want to help you work through it. But if that is not going well, then we want to make sure that we get you moved to a room that will help you to do that. Now, it is likely that you'll move to a room with another roommate. So it's just good for us to take some time to pause and think about like what can be worked through, what can't be worked through, and what's the ideal outcome. Because we know that we're moving you from one situation to another if it really does get to that point. I would say that a lot of times what we find is that the issues can be worked through, especially with a little bit of assistance in the conversation. A lot of times students feel intimidated to talk with each other about conflicts that they're having or an issue that's coming up. So we really encourage people to get honest early, and the roommate success plan really helps with that because you start establishing those shared expectations for your space right from the get-go so that you don't develop habits that are really annoying each other, and helps break down some of those communication barriers because you make a plan in the roommate success plan on how you're going to communicate when things don't go the way that you want them to go. So we're hoping that all of those measures help you, but also like it's really important for you to know that your RA and your area coordinator are here to help you work through those situations.
A discrepancy on the dates. So move-in date will be the 24th of August, not the 26th. If you show up on the 26th, we'll still be glad to have you, but it might be a little more tricky to get into orientation. So August 24th will be that first day of orientation for move-in.
Yeah, thanks, Dirk. It's a Thursday. So if you're planning your week, the Thursday is the first move-in day, then Friday is the second day, and we'll continue for the weekend for the students too. Thanks.
And then another question that came in was, you mentioned the rainbow wing. Is there any other specific wings? This person was asking specifically about like an athlete wing or building, but just kind of in general, are there any specific wings at Pacific?
So right now we have a rainbow wing and we have a men's wing and a women's wing. We don't have any other themed wings at this point, but as Andrew was talking about with the roommate matching, we do tend to have athletes who room together either because they match themselves that way or because their coach might be offering to help match them with each other. So we're working with athletics to see which teams are interested in doing that this year so we can get information out to the students. But we have so many student athletes here at Pacific and lots of students who are involved in lots of different things that no matter where you're living, you're going to be around other athletes too.
So can I have a bike on campus and where can I park it or store it? And can I have a car on campus and can I park it or store it?
Yes. Andrew, do you want to talk about bikes and I'll talk about cars?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
Okay, we think bikes are great. Bikes are a really helpful tool for you to have on campus. There are spots to park your bike outside of each of the residence halls. What I will say is that we really recommend using some of our indoor storage. So in Gilbert Hall, which is one of our apartment areas, we have some indoor bike storage. We really recommend for longer term bike storage, like if it's going to be a couple days between using it. But we do have outside bike storage for every residence hall, and we do really encourage you to bring your bike if that makes commuting across campus easier. I don't think you need it. We are not a huge school where you're biking a mile to your class from your residence hall, but lots of students like to have their bikes.
And then for cars, yeah. So Pacific is a little rare where we don't have any restrictions on first year and new students bringing cars to campus. With that, students will apply for a parking permit over the summer. So if you do that, we're going to advertise what that process looks like and what form you'll need to fill that out. And we'll have your parking permit ready for when you arrive. And so you don't have to worry about it at all. Certain lots are designated as overnight parking and some are not. So if you're living on campus, you definitely want to orient yourself to which lots are okay to keep your car in overnight. But we're really flexible, especially in the first couple of weeks of school as people are learning which lots are which. And the main thing I would say is just pay attention to city parking and not go past those hour restrictions that they have there. That's the most ticketing I ever see in Forest Grove. So more information is going to come out kind of related to orientation information that we'll be sending pretty soon over the summer.
Lots of them here. Is there any way to indicate which building you prefer, or is it randomly assigned?
It is not randomly assigned, which is great for you. There will be the opportunity when you complete your application to rank your preferences for those 3 buildings. And then we, in our assignment process, work really hard to combine your preferences for where you want to live, your preferences on who you'd like to live with, and any needs that you have coming in. So we work really hard to balance that. And then based on the rooms that we have available, we place you in those spaces.
Just come in on the breaks. Are the residence halls or the cafeteria shut down, or like, for example, for spring break versus that winter break that we have, will students have to move out, or kind of how does that process work over breaks on campus?
I love this question. Thanks for asking it. So over our breaks, students do not have to move out. The only exception is summer break because the housing contract doesn't cover that time. But when you move in August, your housing contract runs until May. And so you can leave your belongings in your room over winter break and spring break. We also have like a 1-day fall break, but I don't think anyone would think to move out for that one because it's just a little breather in the fall semester. During that time, meal times can be limited. And during some of those, depending on staffing levels, they might have the market, which is like the convenience store that Andrea mentioned, or Starbucks open, but not be open for full meal service. We share a lot of that information as those periods come around so students know how to plan and prep for them. But it just depends a little bit on each break. Winter break tends to be more limited, and then spring break has a few more options. We also offer holiday housing over winter break. And so if students need to stay, most folks who take us up on that are athletes who are in competition at that time. You can apply for holiday housing. Currently, there's no extra fee for it. It just lets us know who's around for safety reasons. And then for spring break, everyone can stay and come and go as you need to.
Move out over the summer. Is there a rental refrigerator program anywhere near campus? And or if they do buy a refrigerator, can they store it at Pacific over the summer?
That's a great question. We do offer summer storage. So we offer storage. We have a limited amount, but students can store either 2 boxes or a box in a mini fridge. So lots of students do try and use that option to store their mini fridge. We also have students that partner together to store things in a storage unit over the summer, which can be a great option if your student's going to have more than 2 boxes worth of belongings that they want to store over the summer. We do really recommend kind of partnering with friends, and they often do that once they arrive here. We don't currently have a partnership with a rent a mini fridge. However, we have a free store on campus that is free to all Pacific students and community members, and they have they call it a sale in like early September when everyone arrives, but everything's for free. So it's not really a sale because you don't have to buy anything, but they will often have mini fridges there to give to students as well.
Perfect. So I think we've made it through all of the questions that came in. There was one family that hopped in a little bit late. And so they were just asking if you could go over the requirements for students to live on campus. So freshman year, do students have to live on campus, and how can they get a waiver if they are trying not to?
Sure. So freshmen and sophomore students, it's really your first 2 years at Pacific. You're required to live on campus unless you're 20 years or older. And so what we really recommend is planning to live on campus. But if you need a waiver, we do have a process for that. And what you'll do is you can email reslife@pacificu.edu, and we will send you the waiver form for you to complete and the instructions that you need for that.
Awesome. And one more question came in. For those who are interested in using the kitchens on campus, do they need to bring their own pots, pans, supplies, or where there will be some they can use?
Okay, so we have some pots and pans in each of the residence halls, but they're community use. And so it kind of depends, A, on their availability, and B, if you want to share with everybody in the hall. So what I would say is, like, if your student is very rarely going to make something for themselves, that's a great option. If your student is really passionate about cooking, we recommend that they bring a couple of things that they can keep in their room for themselves.
Also, from past experience, if they're really passionate about cooking, they will suddenly make a whole lot of friends freshman year.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, I think we got through all the questions today. So thanks everyone so much for coming, and thank you, Lindsay and Andra. With that, we will stop the recording, but thank you all again so much for coming today. This will be posted online, so you can go back and look over any of the questions you might have. And then once we stop the recording, we'll stick around for a couple of minutes in case anybody has some really specific questions. But otherwise, hope you all have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.